name is Jesse Laguana. I was born on the island of Guam on August 19, 1962. I'm here today to speak to you about my personal testimony and how I got to meet Jesus Christ and how He has changed my life. As I was 4 years old, I remembered kneeling next to my mom in the hospital bed in 1966. As I was holding her hand, I remembered the words she whispered to me. She said, "Son, if you ever found out how I died, please do not hurt that person or hate that person." Here's a 4-year-old. I did not know what she meant. As the years went by, I started to feel a lot of hatred and a lot of anger. And we would come home, my brother and I and my sister, we would come home after school, knowing already what's going to happen to us. The constant beatings that my brother and my sister and I would get from my dad was overwhelming. I couldn't believe that here is a man who was supposed to be a volunteer person in this island, a person who's looked up by many, but yet when he comes home, the beatings continue. So I left home when I was 9 years old. I stayed from house to house until finally the authorities picked me up and I was charged for being beyond control. My dad had mentioned that I was beyond control, that I had run away. So I was picked up by the authorities and I was taken to a place called Sanctuary. Sanctuary was a program for runaways. I did not consider myself a runaway because I stayed with relatives. I stayed with house to house that I knew. After spending 90 days in Sanctuary, I was released back to my parent, to my dad, and of course to my grandparents. Again, the beatings continued. I came home one day, I saw my dad pick up my brother and threw him against the wall. Then he took a 2x4 and hit my brother against his knee. And then he turned around and picked me up and threw me against the wall. And he said, "Why don't you ever defend yourself and hit me back? That's what you want to do." But I told him, I said, "I cannot, because you're my dad. I will never answer you back, nor will I ever lay a hand on you." So again, the beatings continued until I got tired. And again, I ran away. And this time I got to meet Judge Abati. I went in there through juvenile justice, and my dad mentioned to Judge Abati that he is no longer my son. That Jesus M. Laguana is no longer my son. So from there, I lost all ties with my dad. I didn't care about him. There was nothing else in this world that I would love to do than to hurt my dad for what he has done to me, my brothers and my sister. But something still triggered and still continued to haunt me. We have an opportunity to go down to the village and mingle with the community. And lo and behold, at the basketball court, here was a guy, 6'1", that came up to me and said, "Are you Jesse Laguana?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said to me, "Primo, you're my first cousin." Needless to say, this young man said, "I need you to come and follow me, for I want you to meet my dad, who happens to be my mom's brother." At this time, I was very confused because my dad had never told us that my mom still had some brothers and sisters living. And most importantly, my dad never told us that my mom's mom, my grandmother, was still alive. I was very shocked to meet my uncle, my mom's oldest brother. His name was Uncle John. He sat me down and he showed me pictures of my mom. He even showed me pictures of himself carrying me during the funeral. I was very, very shocked. At that time, my anger and my hatred started building even more, especially when my uncle had called his other brother and sister to come and see me. And we were talking about the beatings that my mom had received from my dad. My dad told me that my mom died of tuberculosis, and that is what is mentioned on the document. But I did not know that my mom was being beaten constantly by my dad. And I found it very hard to forget about what I just learned and what I just heard from my mom's side. My anger started to build even more. I tried to commit suicide. I tried killing myself about 21 times, from jumping off the 2-story house at Chalampago, landing on a pick, from hanging myself where my brother found me and he cut the rope, from running into a moving car, from opening myself up and placing my right hand into my stomach. All of this I tried, but to no avail. I hated my dad, and I said to myself, I will never forgive him, and that I will try to find a way to harm him. So after 2.5 years, I decided to transfer to the United States Marine Corps. And there, where everything I wanted to do for my dad or to my dad came into my mind. For 18 weeks in the United States Marine Corps boot camp training and the POW training camp that I went to, and also the bayonet course that I went to, you are asked to pick someone in your life that you hate the most so you can accomplish and become successful in the bayonet course training. And boy, did I guess that right. I chose my dad. I chose my dad, and I tore up the bayonet course because I took out all my anger and my hatred to one man. I graduated from the United States Marine Corps, went to my duty station, still filled with a lot of anger, a lot of bitter. I got to meet a young man while aboard the USS Mount Whitney. His name was Lance Corporal Dillon. One day he came up to me and said, Corporal Laguana, do you believe in Jesus Christ? I said, you better get away from me because you know that we are God. You know this, that when you make sergeant, you are God. You tell people when to go to sleep. You tell people when to turn the lights on, when to brush their teeth. So I am God. And I believe this wholeheartedly, that I was given orders to go to Marine Barracks, Hawaii. But I had asked for Guam because it was here that I will end my career, because there was something that I needed to do. And General Mundy said, well, I cannot give you Guam. It is hard for you locals to get Guam. So when I got to Hawaii, I went into the S1 office, and the corporal and the captain there said, congratulations, happy birthday, you're going to Marine Barracks, Guam, from General Mundy. My wishes came true, but what I came here for did not. I came here and I was stationed here for 3 years and taught people how to survive in the jungle and how to survive in times of war. But my mind was still focused on one man, and that was my dad. I hated him so much even when I was here. More so that I was in the Marine Corps and learned how to really use my hands and how to shoot at 1,500 yards. Crazy things start going through my mind. So I went to the Marine Barracks and took out my rifle with 9 rounds. And this is where I really wanted to end my life. At a place where the Marines had landed, where the Marines had liberated Guam, down in Asa. I stood there on a rock that I often visit to this day. I called the police to tell them where I was. I contacted my wife, and she knew already what my intentions were. As I sat on the rock and pondered on the question, Is this it? Is this the end? And there was a police officer that came by, Police Officer Anderson. He came by, he passed by 4 or 5 times, didn't even notice where I was. When he finally noticed that I was sitting on the rock, he came up to me and said, "Son, I know what you're going through." "No, you don't know what I'm going through." So he took out his badge and he threw his badge into the water and said, "I'm not a police officer tonight. I am your friend." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "Police Officer Anderson, I could have hurt you at 1,500 yards or when you were coming in. I could have done that because I don't want nobody to be around me." So I shot a warning shot in the air, and that's when he moved away. Then the colonel and the captain from Marine Barracks came down. And Captain Len Bauer said, "Sergeant Laguana, I'm ordering you to put your rifle down." I shot another round in the air, and he said, "I will come back when you're in a better mood." I said, "Okay, thank you, sir." But the colonel stood still. The colonel stood still and said, "But what do you want? What do you want me to do?" I said, "Sir, I need to get out of the Marine Corps. I need to get out of the Marine Corps. I've learned enough, sir, to take care of something that I need to do." And you know, after saying that, there was this giant guy walking down with 2 policemen. And guess who that was? My dad. Out of all people, they bring my dad to me with a rifle and 7 more rounds left. You must be crazy. I locked a round in the chamber. And my instinct was to point that rifle downrange to that one big man that was coming down towards me. But you know, instead of that, I placed the rifle into my mouth and I pulled the trigger and I fell backwards. A loud noise went off, and for the first time, my rifle jammed on me. I still have the scar on the back of my leg when I fell back on that rock. For the first time, my rifle jammed on me. I said, "What's going on?" My thoughts went back to Lance Corporal Dillon when he asked me, "Do I believe in God?" So the colonel said, "I'll give you your wish. I will discharge you from the Marine Corps." My dad was still standing there, and I told him, "I don't want to see him. I don't want that man here." He heard. Now, do you know how I felt when you said I was no longer your son? Then why are you here? Why? So I was taken away to the Marine Barracks, and lo and behold, I was given my wish, getting out of the Marine Corps. But then again, my life started getting worse with my family. And I was very, very hurt. But I still managed to continue on with my life. And that's where I met Dr. Nazar. I was transported to the emergency room at Guam Memorial Hospital with my right hand in my stomach. And he was the doctor on call.
I've been called there because this patient had apparently tried to commit suicide, slashing his abdomen open from the upper abdomen to the mid-abdomen.
And when I got there, I remember distinctively the nurses that said, "Doc, there is no hope for this man. He always comes in here. He's always suicidal." And Dr. Nazaki said, "No, he is my son. You prepare him. We're going to take care of him."
As I examined him, preparatory to take him to the operating room, I heard some of the nurses snickering and talking. "Oh, here he is again. He tried committing suicide about 6 months ago." I was very upset at the nurses, and I told them, "I don't want to hear anything more like this, because this man might be hurting inside. So I said, I'm going to treat him like my own son.
And sure enough, this man took care of me. I was taken upstairs in a minute. When I recovered, there was a book next to me, the Holy Bible. The Holy Bible, out of all the books. And I remembered what Lance Corporal Dillon said to me. Sergeant Laguana, do you believe in God? And on that particular night, a Bible was placed on my bedside. And again, it reminded me of what Lance Corporal Dillon kept asking me about. But I kept placing the Bible away in my nightstand. When I got up, I took that Bible and I put it underneath into the nightstand. Again, the second night, another Bible was there again. Another Bible was there again after I placed that one. By the time I got discharged from GMH, I had 6 Holy Bibles. Dr. Nazaki was very, very stubborn, just like me. But the last day, he said, Jess, all I ask you is to read the book of John. That's all I ask you. The book of John. I read the book of John. And was I hooked on the book of John? But that did not stop me from hating my dad. So I went to Dr. Nazaki every Wednesday, every Friday, every Saturday for almost 2.5 years to 3 years. I was very devoted to the Seventh-day Adventist Church and to God. And he was so happy to see that here I am. But you know, he knew that I was still hurting. He knew that I was still filled with anger. He asked me, have you ever forgiven your dad for what he has done to you? I said, no. Come on now. You and I are good friends. 3.5 years, you never brought up my dad. Why now? And here's what he said. I'm leaving soon. I'm going back to the States. There's 2 things that I wanted to accomplish here in Guam. One, build a church. And second, to see you forgive your dad. Oh, what can I do? I said, okay, God, no problem. But he knew it was a problem. Because that's when I stopped completely going to church. For I did not want to be reminded about forgiving my dad. So in September of that year, my sister invited me to come to a birthday party. And I thought it was just for my sister's kid. And my sister did not tell me that it was for my father. I sat down very comfortably. And I did not know that there were the cars that were coming in, that my dad was in that car. And I sat there in that party. I told my sister, you lied to me. You told me that this party was for you. Why is Dad here? Why? I did not know what to do. He got out of the car. My dad's sister were there. And my Auntie Terry said, boy, you're not going nowhere. You will stay here and you will talk to your dad. I said, no way. There's no way that I will talk to my dad. No way. I don't like him. I hate him. I just don't want nothing to do with him. Nothing at all. But I even pounded on the table. And my dad saw me from afar. So we didn't talk for a good 30 minutes after they blessed the table. We didn't talk. Then he got onto the microphone as he was getting ready to be presented with all of these gifts for his birthday, his 54th birthday. And he came up to the microphone and said, Mananaluhu and Mananahu, ladies and gentlemen, uno agwini by honra. There's only one that I will honor here. Ilahihu, as me. That he will honor only one person tonight. And that was me. He came up to the microphone and called me and said, I want you to be up here with me. My legs did not want to move, for I didn't want it to move. But my Auntie Terry said, get up there. So I got up to where he was standing. And I remembered the words he said to me. He mentioned this in front of people. Do you really want to know how your mom died? Because that's what's hurting you. And I said, that's all I've ever wanted to know. And he said, it's because of me. It's because of me that your mom died. I was very, very shocked when he told me that. He has been a Boy Scout master for 45 years. He's one of the pioneers of tremolo music and the first to be a recording artist of Laguana. But that didn't matter to me. But that particular night, when he said, son, it was because of me that your mom died, I felt very much relieved. And he asked, can you forgive me? How can I forgive you after 32 years of me asking how my mom died? It took you this long to tell me. I never understood that. I remember calling Dr. Nazaki and said, you know, sir, you were right that I needed to be there at that party. And that my dad asked me to forgive him, and that he admitted that it was him. And Dr. Nazaki said, what did you say? I said, Doc, I didn't respond. I was shocked. So the next day, I went to visit my dad. And for 2.5 hours, we spoke. We spoke about love. We spoke about forgiveness.
And what a wonderful sight to know that the Lord was there with me. For it was that evening that I forgave my dad for what he had done to my mom.
Because the Bible told me how to forgive. The Lord told me how to forgive, especially to a man that I hated the most.
It took a lot out of me, but I knew that the Holy Spirit was in me. And I forgave my dad. He died 2.5 years ago, and I remembered holding his hand and said, Dad, if you know this is me, then squeeze my hand. He squeezed my hand, and I had asked my family if I could be alone with my dad. And as I squeezed his hand and he squeezed mine, and I left, I knew that I was in peace with him and that he was in peace with me. But more so, I was really in peace with God, for I finally got to really understand my dad and forgave him for all he has done.
I am a Seventh-day Adventist. And if it is not for the Seventh-day Adventist religion, I would not be here today. I would not have forgiven my dad. The ultimate question that was asked to me, did I really forgive my dad? Yes, I have. And that is the reason why I cry for him now. And I share this with all my students. You will never know how it feels to lose someone when that someone is finally gone.
I wish I could have known him better than laying in the hospital bed. But I just come to all of you to understand that Jesus is real. He's an awesome God. He has taught me how to forgive and how to love and how to care. It is not what I want in this world, but it is what Jesus wants us all to do. And that is to reach out to everyone so that they all know who Jesus is.
May God bless you on this special day. Down to Jesus Mahasi. Maraming salamat. May God bless you all.